Jack's Pickering.
We now learn that the billion-dollar security price tag for the 72 hours of G820 meetings is just the beginning. For the use of media only, the government is splurging on a $2 million fake lake in downtown Toronto. Complete with a sprawling dock, bar, canoes, and a giant jumbotron, the government is literally going to flush it down the drain when the 72-hour spend fest is over. Having run up the biggest deficit in Canadian history, didn't someone, anyone in government, think that $2 million, 72-hour fake lake to host a meeting on fiscal restraint was a bad idea?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Obviously, Mr. Speaker, Canada is very proud of hosting the world. It's normal, Mr. Speaker. It's a normal practice for the host country of an international summit to use the opportunity to showcase all their country has to offer to the world, and that is exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to be proud to showcase Canada to the world, contrary to what the Liberals want to do.
The Honourable Member for Ajax Pickering.
Come on, really, you're going to defend this? There's nothing normal about it. The government has already blown $23 million for a media centre in the industry minister's riding that the media will now never use. Instead, they'll be sitting around a fake lake in Toronto. If that wasn't enough, the government is blowing a further $20 million on dancers, singers, fiddlers, and flowers. Instead of hosting world leaders, maybe the government should consider party planning for Lady Gaga. How can the government look at people's wee-eye has just run out and justify this billion-dollar spend fest?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Order.
Well, with my critic area in public safety and national security, things have been extremely busy here in Ottawa, and I thought I'd take a moment to talk about some of the biggest issues. One of the issues I've been on is, of course, the G8, G20 spending. This hasn't just been a huge story in Canada, it's really become an international embarrassment, with it being both in CNN, in Japan, and front pages of German newspapers, and now even in The Economist, where they're calling it a loony boondoggle. And this spending isn't so offensive just because for 72 hours they're spending $1 billion, but because these meetings are supposed to be about fiscal restraint. This is a time when Canada is running the biggest deficit in our history, and this government is spending money with no caution or concern, and these costs clearly could have been avoided if they didn't try to stick the summit in a cabinet minister's riding as a reward, and then at the last second have to divide it into two locations, shoving it into the security nightmare of downtown Toronto. So that's why the costs are so big, and I think it's indicative of how this government, frankly, doesn't have a lot of respect for taxpayers' dollars.
With so many real priorities underfunded or cut by this Conservative government, how can the Prime Minister justify this waste of money?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Order.
Media are reporting widely and obviously incorrectly that the cost of apparently this artificial lake, which is a small part of the Experience Canada exhibit, is $1.9 million. Well, Mr. Speaker, to you, Mr. Speaker, and to the colleagues, building costs for the water feature are $57,000.
Order. The Honourable Member for Ajax Pickering. Order.
Even if it is $57,000, that's more than the annual income of 40% of Canadian families. The fake lake and accessories, $2 million. Dancers, fiddlers, and flowers, $20 million. A boat, $40,000.
The other issue that has been predominating the House of Commons, particularly as we move to the close, is the issue of pardons. Now, clearly, none of us want to see somebody like Karla Homolka get a pardon, and it's one of the reasons why, as the session wound down, we had discussions and talks about how we could bring forward pardon legislation that would make sure that any possibility of Karla Homolka or any other serious offender getting a pardon at this time would be shut. But what's unfortunate about this is the Conservatives should have dealt with this issue 4 years ago. Then Minister Stockwell Day said the problem was fixed. He refused to allow a House of Commons committee to look at the issue and said the matter was closed. Of course it wasn't. The uproar happened with Grant James, and again on the back of a napkin they try to write legislation. This time throwing in all kinds of additional clauses that I think rightly gave many people concerns, including myself. As an example, the legislation as it was written before we negotiated this out would have meant for a single mother who's in a desperate financial situation, who writes a fraudulent check, that she could find herself now with her life destroyed because of that one mistake. Clearly, we don't want to take somebody who's 18 years old and makes a poor decision, destroy their life because we're trying to shut down the situation from somebody serious getting a pardon. So I was involved with Minister Taves back and forth in our House leadership negotiating that deal. We were able to find something that ensures those serious offenders aren't going to get a pardon, but by the same token, for those others, that we can have a debate later on in September. The other issue that has been very big in my critics area is the gun registry. And we've heard from everyone from the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, the Canadian Police Association, paramedics, emergency workers, nurses, doctors, the Canadian Bar Associations, and countless victims groups that the gun registry saves lives. It's vital to community safety. And yet the Conservatives have relentlessly tried to dismantle a tool police tell us they need to keep our communities safe. So I've been fortunate enough to lead the battle to save the registry. We have a united position as a Liberal Party to protect the registry. We now up to the NDP, who are the only party now who doesn't have a party position on this, to make a whip vote to say this is a fundamental issue, that we need to stand with police, we need to stand with victims, we need to stand with the gun registry. Certainly over the period of the summer I'll be traveling and talking about its importance, going out with police and others who understand how this tool works and advocating it. And I invite people to look for more information on our website, markholland.ca. So as Parliament winds down here for the summer and things turn back to the rioting and fighting the cause out in the rest of Canada, I wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you soon.